Doctor and Call comes to you compliments Antillian Life Insurance, Hills and Valley Pharmacy, and the Spice Isle Imaging Center. Good evening once again, and welcome to Doctor on Call. And folks, we do apologize. We were experiencing a little technical problem there. I just wasn't getting our videos to syncing with television, and so we had to pull in the technicians quickly to have that rectified. And they've done so, of course, as they always do. So we apologize again, but we're here and we continue our discussion this week on diabetes awareness. It is Diabetes Awareness Month, such a very important subject to discuss, and also a subject that we have to continue to discuss, because this is something that can be very, very serious, detrimental, but it can also be prevented and be controlled. All right, so we hope that you're locked in already. Good night to our viewers on GBN Television 7 and 11, our viewers on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also our listeners on K105 FM. Welcome, and it's such a pleasure to have you. Let's welcome Dr. Nixon. Doc, good evening and welcome. Now, you notice I didn't say welcome back. I stopped saying that.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you it's nice to be back.
Well, no. I got you tonight. According to people,
it's nice being here. It's really just nice being and being able to share.
Yes, indeed. So we've been talking about diabetes, the effects and all of that. Last week we had with us Dr. Matthias. Yes, lots of information he shared with us. And so we're quite happy. We know that lots of people were viewing the program. We saw it from, our Facebook numbers as well. So we thank you for that, and we trust that you're back on with us tonight as we continue the discussion. Earlier this week, I think it was International Men's Week. Men's Day. Yes.
Friday.
I didn't even know we had a day, Doc. Usually hear about...
But you guys have 365 days. It's just that we call out one 364 days.
Yeah, okay.
It's always a guy's day.
All right. Well, okay. We have our work cut out for us.
I think we still need to recognize our men. There are men who are doing really good for our society, for their families, for themselves, and we need to recognize the contribution that the male of the species make towards, just keeping this world going and making this world a better place for their families and for the nations in general. So congratulations to our men, and I hope that there's this awareness of self and what is expected from male who act positively. It's not a gender thing. It's a thing related to how you make your society better, how you are a steward of the world that God has placed in your hands.
Yes, indeed. And of course, as we continue to discuss, diabetes, and so tonight we're gonna put a little emphasis on men, and of course, and I'm not ashamed to say the ego that we possess sometimes, especially when it comes to getting ourselves screened and going to the doctor. We always feel that if we get a pain here or pain there, okay, I'm the man, I can handle it. But, pain is good, folks. A lot of time we don't realize that pain is good. Yes, you may feel discomfort, but it's a good thing. I tell you why. Because it is a signal that something is not going well. And so we need to act on that signal and, go to the professionals, Dr. Nixon and all the others, so they can, do their diagnosis and tell us what is wrong. So, Doc, continuing from last week, quite a lot of information. I want us to
go back and remind people what is diabetes status, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we have a responsibility to remember. My favorite thing We use the same Bible every day, every time we go to church in our homes. We just need constant reminders, just reinforced. The more information we have, the more information we understand, I think the better we are to take care of ourselves. And so we talk about men. I'm going to talk about the men after, but in saying here, the men we have to meet our men where they are, okay? I can promise you that almost every man in this world is watching football whenever it's playing. Maybe that's what we need to have our diabetes ads. But that's if you look at American football, Super Bowl Sunday, millions of dollars are spent, right? On consumption items, whether it is food or feel good item, is a car, whatever it is, right? There's not one single health ad. Millions of dollars. A 30-second ad is costing how many $1 million, right? Football should be a means of keeping healthy. Yet we don't speak about health. When we have millions upon millions of men sitting there, there's no moment where it is accepted to let's remind people that this is a good time to remember that you need to keep healthy. You know, so we kind of need to find our men where they are. And we know they are. They're playing football. They're lining on the blocks. They're checking their girls. Some of them at home with their families, you know, but they have places where they go to feel good. And we have to reach them wherever they are to remind them that, you know, it's okay to play football. It's okay to it's okay to have a drink. It's okay to do stuff, but you have to remember how you're going to stay well so you can enjoy this whatever creature comfort you're seeking for a very long time.
Oh, definitely.
So diabetes. Diabetes is called a chronic or long-standing illness. An illness that has a chronic disease is one that has really no known vaccine yet, okay, to prevent it. That is going to be with you for more than 3 to 6 months. It's going to be there. That if you don't take care of it, it's going to get worse. It's going to behave like a galloping horse, right? We've seen the horses when they go in the movies. Don't watch cowboy and Indian movie. When they get the wild horse, you need to tame that horse quickly, catch him and tame him, right? But it also is initiated because of poor lifestyle, and the biggest lifestyle risk factor, the biggest lifestyle behavior, the biggest thing that we do in the way we live, right, is allow for obesity or overweight, severe overweight. Come on, and how we eat and behave these days. We don't go out and walk. We take the bus. We sit down, or we encourage our children, especially, to just stay home. You know where they are. The handheld or the phone babysits them, so they really sit and they're not as active. Children ain't going to play ring a rosy again because, oh no, you know, they can't get betouche by them from the grass and all of that. But the bottom line is that our lifestyles have changed, especially as families. Because the things that we used to do as families, we walk to church together, you know, go visit your grandmother, everybody walk up the road, cousins come by and play and stuff. Those things don't really happen a lot anymore. And so we have to see the value. You're not going back, but we're taking the value of the good things that made our lives better. The way we eat. We don't eat our traditional foods. You know me, every time I come and I talk about what is pasta, okay? The foods we eat, convenient foods, high fat, highly processed foods. So instead of eating a slice of yam, we probably make a quick bakes with flour that is highly processed starch, right? And so we are prone to developing diabetes in greater number and at younger ages, right? You can have your body can be set up. You can have the risk. You can have it within yourself that there's a possibility that you can develop diabetes. But if you don't nurture that, if you take care of yourself and eat well and exercise and manage stress and don't drink alcohol and don't smoke and those things, you know, the likelihood of developing diabetes is significantly decreased. And if you do have it, it will be easier to manage because you're really doing the stuff that is required. Excuse me. So we keep talking about diabetes, but we haven't talked about what it costs us when we do develop diabetes. So you can ask a child, ask one of our people who has juvenile diabetes or type 1 diabetes, where their pancreas, that organ that produces insulin, the insulin that takes the sugar, which comes from the carbohydrates and the starch and the sugars and the starches that we eat, the carbohydrates, break down to glucose, produce energy. Do we need energy? Yes. If you check your sugar, there's a limit, there's a range, right? It's from X to Y. Under X, where under X is low or hypoglycemia, way above X is hyperglycemia, intimately related to the presence of diabetes in your body, right? And that extra sugar, if it doesn't get into where it's needed for its work, your muscles in particular, right, for your brain to think and work, right, is actually going to stay in your sugar, circle around, and just damage all your blood vessels, poison your nerves, and all the rest of it, and we develop complications. So that is what we want to do. If we can't stop it, we want to be able to control it, right?
That's right.
They say that up to now there's no cure. You can reverse it, but it's always lying under there waiting on you, right? There's no cure. And I can't say, okay, well, it's gone. I could eat whatever dumpling I want. I could eat. I can drink how much sodas I want and all the rest of it. So the truth is there's no real cure. But I was saying about chronic diseases. Chronic diseases also require changes, lifestyle changes, how you live your life, okay, in order to control, prevent them. Because if not, what the chronic diseases do is get worse and come with severe complications that can lead to severe illness or morbidity, right? Or early death or mortality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you either get very sick, that those morbid conditions, or you die. That mortality comes on earlier. We know that if you die before 70, we probably take it out of the Bible, but it makes sense. If you die before your 70th birthday or your 70th year, that is considered premature death. Okay? So what do we want? We want to prevent diabetes if it's possible. If we can't prevent it, we want to have it under control so you don't develop the complications, because then you have costs.
Yep.
Right? And you have costs that are, first of all, diabetes is supposed to be the most costly disease to manage, because there's one it has so many ramifications and so many complications and so many needs and so many services to control it once it comes in, right? Plus, just so many people have diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are countries that by 2030 will have over 20% of the population will have diabetes. And if we're not careful, we probably would jump to that number. We'd rather not. I think we're still at 13%, right? So 13 people out of every 100 in our population has diabetes. That's what we know about. There are a lot of people that we just don't even know that they have diabetes. Because often the statistics show that often by the time you're diagnosed, they find out that you have sugar. You've had it a long time because a lot of damage is already done. Right? So we want to look at the costs. What kind of costs there are? There are a lot of hidden costs. Diabetes alone costs 2.5 times what it costs to take care of other things. So think about our poor country, right? And the amount of money that we have to put in to taking care of diabetes as one single disease. And we still have children with asthma, children with congenital malformation that need support, people who are old, people who meet in accidents, people who have hypertension, cancer, and all the other things. Did I say asthma? Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And other diseases, right? Complicated pregnancies, just you name it. People who are born blind and have disabilities, other people with disabilities, that we kind of need to take care of. So if one disease is being so push up and bold and want to take everything, we kind of need to put them out of the way, especially since we have the potential to control it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Since we have the ability to prevent it, we need to do that. We need to come together as a country, as a people, and say, you know something, we need to have better life. And we have the ability to do so. Let's see how we can do this. And this is an individual responsibility, because whatever is being spent, not just spent, because I don't want to look at this money alone, whatever is being expended, whatever we have to put out there to control diabetes, we could use it somewhere else. So, the costs. What are the costs that we can quantify? We can say this costs $10, $20, $40. Because remember, they're inquantifiable costs, and we're going to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
after. Remind me. I want you to bring that up, right? So those are the costs that are that you can associate with human disease and illness. So you can say, okay, $5 to screen, right? $10 a day to address your wounds that you have from when you have sores and ulcers and stuff in your legs. $50 for amputation, right? So they're direct costs that you can say, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And those,
Medication, because you would have to be on
right,
medication
the
for the
direct
rest of your
costs
life.
are the
Yes.
costs that are associated with
Mm-hmm.
utilization or use of our medical resources. So what it costs you to be in hospital, what it costs for your amputation, what it costs for your wound dressing when you're hospitalized, what it costs for a bed for the day, what it costs for laundry to fix the bed, what it costs for dressings. You got me? So when you start to quantify those direct costs, it adds up. And also outpatient counseling, wound management, insulin, training diabetes counselors, right? Having the
Transportation is
diabetes,
another major cost,
right?
because depending on where you live and you have to travel back and forth. I mean,
Transport is a cost,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
The, to train people to take care of the diabetes, the Diabetes Association, they have to pay rent, they have to pay, they have to source information, pay telephone. Those are costs that are associated with offering services, and of course, what the pharmaceutical, or whether you're going to provide whatever pharmaceutical, whatever medications. So whether it is insulin and the needles and the alcohol and the testing machines, um, and the lancets. I'm just listening because I want people to be aware
Yeah,
that all of
strips.
these
You hear
things
people
cost.
talking about strips and they can't get strips
Right. And medications.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes the medications nowadays work, but they're very expensive. But even your regular medications, what if you're taking metformin, for example, and you have upset stomach? You need another medication to help you. Okay? Those are costs. What if you're custom eating and you know you have to buy special food? Well, it shouldn't, because people should just be eating properly at home, everybody anyway. But you might have special needs if you develop complications. If you have kidney failure, right? You may have to. What if you're allergic to something and you have to get one of the things that is recommended to get something else? So, right? So all of those things we have to think about. Going to the doctor, you visit to the doctor, or the doctors who work in the health services and common services have to be paid, don't they?
mm-hmm.
That's a cost, right? They're not just for diabetes. They're there for other things, but diabetes has a cost because the doctor who runs it, who runs the clinic, the doctor who gets trained, that's a cost. So there are a lot of costs that are hidden, right? Surgery. People who have had limb loss, that have difficulty walking, need special shoes, mobility aids. All of those things are related costs that we tend to forget, right? The indirect cost has to do with how sorry, I lost my stuff. I don't want to tell all your lies, so I write it down. The indirect cost, right, has to do with situations related to work and loss of work,
Mm-hmm.
that your productivity, and at the end of the day, so let's say you work, but then you can't work, or you can't work as well. So your productivity comes down, your vision goes, right? Right? But you also have to find somebody, also have to know, go and interview somebody else, train somebody else, replace you if you go home because you're not able to work anymore. Or you might need somebody to support you because you can't produce. You might have the brain to do it, the capacity, but the physical
Yeah, yep,
possibility might
yep,
go.
yep,
Or you
yes.
lose your limbs, you can't sew on a machine anymore. You have to teach somebody else to use this machine that you have to use. So those are the things. And those costs affect not only individuals, but affect our society, right? We're gonna have to make sure that you put proper roads so you can walk, right? That we have um um mobility services that's especially for you if you can't walk, if you don't have a limb, right? Services for you if your vision gets impaired, and of course the workplace also gets severely. The workplace gets severely affected by those are indirect costs that will cost everybody. So we have to think that it doesn't just come like not just have sugar. I can't bother. I tell her this tablet, somebody me have diarrhea, blah blah blah. There are just so many things that go into this. Just even sourcing. I remember during COVID, you remember we couldn't have when we had problems with shipments and stuff. People had to bring in medications from outside using Amerijet. Amerijet is expensive, but you needed your stuff and you needed your stuff. What if you don't have it? What if you can't get your strips and can't check your sugar? What if you can't access the thing because you had something like COVID and the services were closed down? Then you get more ill and there's greater loss. So those are the challenges that we have, and we have to recognize that there is an absolutely crazy cost that is associated. Besides just having diabetes, what is even more important to us and more expensive for us is the cost of complications. When you develop complicated disease, you lose your vision, or your vision becomes severely impaired. Again, both the direct and both the direct and indirect costs become escalated. All right, we have to do in giving comprehensive care. You do retinoscopes. You look down retinoscopy. You look down at the retina, at the back of the eye, to see what's going on. Right. When you do that, it costs machine. You have to train somebody. You have to find somebody to evaluate the information. You have to find somebody. You have to find advanced methods in ophthalmology, eye care, to treat all of those those complications. Right? We talk about surgery and loss of limbs, rehabilitation. Let's imagine. I have to have a leg amputation, and usually they will schedule somebody for an amputation. Okay. And I'm in a theater, but a young lady comes in. She's having an ectopic pregnancy, which is an emergency, right? Or your wife is pregnant and has to have an emergency C-section. Do you understand the cost, right? Or your child falls and breaks his arm, but he needs to be examined under anesthesia. You need to use a theater, but we're doing an amputation of something that could have been prevented. Or we have some mass problems, a big disaster, right, that we don't have control over. What services are being used for people who have a disease that we could have prevented? So you have to think about all of those. Blindness affects us significantly because it means we're not equipped to deal with that kind of disability in the workplace or in the schools, for that matter, right? Yes, while the Council for Disabled and the Blind the Blind Association, right, try, we simply cannot, and we know that diabetes is one of the main causes of visual impairment, right? It also means that as you get older, it's good enough to be older and fine, but if you can't see, you always need care. Therefore, if I'm caring for you, I probably can't go to work. So that's loss of income for families, right? If I have to stay home and care for you, I can't go to work, right? Your quality of life decreases because you can't get up and go boil a little porridge for yourself or do anything. So somebody always has to be there. And it also impairs that person's life and their capacity to earn and their capacity to just have a decent life because they don't have to be committed to somebody who's so impaired. Kidney failure. So kidney failure doesn't go from being well today, tomorrow you need dialysis. They're all the phases that you go through, the labs, the checking, the medications you have to add, the constant visit to the nephrologist, training somebody to be a nephrologist. So there are a lot of layers on this onion, right? And of course, when kidney failure comes, and strokes, what are the complications, and heart attacks? Those are things that require a lot of specialist care, being put into the intensive care unit. That tells you that you're going to need to be in rehabilitation, getting better, being fixed physically, emotionally, mentally, right, for a long period. Or you might just, again, the economic loss to you and your family, because you might be the breadwinner who has the stroke. In communities where men in homes where the men decide, okay, I'll do this, you take care of the children, But when he develops diabetes, it's a totally different story.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
we have to think about it.
But
There's
what
another
about
thing that costs.
also, Doc? I was going to say, what about if you're in a situation where you don't have any family to care for you, and you have to depend
Mm,
on neighbors or people who
and
just.
their lifestyle gets impaired.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's a thing called, I discovered tonight, evergreening of medications.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that's costing us a lot, because the pharmaceutical companies that build these medications, right, are always renewing them, evergreening. So they're trying to improve, right, their products, right? So they can extend the patent of the product. So you know what is a patent? You make a product, it has a life
Mm-hmm.
that you can sell it at a certain price. That it's supposed to compensate for your research and development, distribution, all the whatever mitigation problems within, right? Ensuring that you market and distribute and all the rest of it, right? Guess what? After a certain time, your patent is over. What do they do within? And often 7 years is kind of the patent life, right? The patent on this drug. You know what they do? They improve it, or they develop another. They find another use of the drug, right? And they repatent the drug with that other use, or add a little component and say, well, this insulin is potentiated this way. So the insulin, again, it costs more than the original insulin. It has another patent life, right? And the user, the person who requires the insulin, has to pay for this.
Yeah.
Or if they have socialized medicine, the government or whichever agency or the insurance companies had to pay for it. When the insurance company pay for it, you have to pay the insurance company anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So try and understand that there are a lot of hidden costs that we don't take into consideration. We think just go in, buy an insulin, buy a needle, buy a thing, and it's done. No, it's not. So those are the challenges we have with costs
But if
towards the.
Doc, I'm thinking here. I'm listening to you outlining some of these costs, and what we don't realize is that even in instances where probably you might get support, let's say from government may have, let's say, a health program where you get some support, maybe not 100%, but you get some support.
No, that
Somebody has,
Diabetes Association
yes,
that provides medication at cost.
somebody has to pay for that as well.
It costs somebody.
People's taxes, and the thing about it is, if we live a healthy lifestyle, some of these monies can go to other areas that can cause us now to enjoy a better life.
And then there are the other costs. The emotional costs on your family, the emotional costs on yourself, the costs of losing your social interactions, those societal things, the things where your whole sense of self is lost. You can't contribute to your community. Let's say you had a bus, right? And would take the disabled children to school every day. The children with learning challenges, right? That is you decide this is my contribution to society. And then you lose your right foot.
Hmm.
Okay? Right? So those other things that it costs families, children not being able to deal with the grandmothers can't see the children and enjoy them. You can't enjoy the family fun because you're so ill. You're on dialysis. Your son constantly having to take you to dialysis 3 times a week, right? And so it means that he has to work later in the day. He can't entertain himself with his friends anymore. I remember a nurse a nurse in Montego Bay, 120 miles from Kingston, the days before they had wide four-lane roads, right? And she would get up probably 2 days a week or 3 days a week and drive her sister to Kingston to get her dialysis, because they did not have any dialysis in Montego Bay, and drive back 120 miles and come to work in the night.
Hmm.
Right? That's a cost.
Oh
The
yeah.
cost of your children watching you just die because you become so ill, your kidney has been so, or you having a stroke. those deep emotional costs, right? The breakup of families, the loss of that integrity that the family has because somebody's so very ill. Those we have to take all of these things into consideration. And this is a disease that for the most part we can prevent. So I hope people are hearing this and understand that, yeah, we have a diabetes being thrown around there just casually, right? We have to think of what is my responsibility to myself, to my family, to ensure that all this burden, and of course, the cost to the government, who has the ultimate responsibility to provide services. We're not rich. We are not rich. Have to provide education, to provide nurses. You know how much nurses we have in the country? Not nearly half of what we need to have. So nurse can't spend time with you when you go to health center. She can't come to your house and teach you to care for your foot. Okay? When the government finds itself in a position to have to spend a lot more money on care, especially something like diabetes, it takes away from the other things we can do for social development in our country.
Definitely. Doc, let's take a short break and we come right back. Stay with us, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Wishes come true this Christmas with a loan from Cont'd Bank. Make those home renovations, treat your family and friends, and get the things on your Christmas list. All of this is possible with our hassle-free financing of up to $40,000. Apply today and you can be one of the 5 lucky customers to win a shopping spree. Have it all as you wish this Christmas with Cont'd Bank. Visit our website or your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Cont'd Bank and you. Welcome home.
Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies have catered for all the early shoppers. So, start your Christmas shopping now and avoid the rush. Visit Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies for your gift sets, toys for the children, hair care and body care products, along with your prescription and over-the-counter medication. Shop early and avoid the Christmas rush at Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies at Central Deputy Street, Guab, the corner of Victoria and Jubilee Street, Grenville, and Wall Street, Grandans.
Strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now! We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carrico. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys. We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's Doctor and Call, and we are continue to discuss diabetes. We've been looking at the cost, and believe you, it is humongous. It's humongous. And Doc, there's something I wanted to talk about. You know, sometimes when people complain, when you advise people, hey, look, you need to eat properly, you need to eat organic foods, eat local foods, fresh vegetables, fruits, and all of that. And you hear the complaint, well, these things are so expensive, and it's cheaper to buy a pack of ramen or whatever it is. And you complain about the cost now. And we don't stop to think about maybe doing a comparison. What it's costing us now to eat healthy as compared to not doing that and having this humongous cost that we may have to bear if we can, and if we not, that someone else will have to bear.
And that's very important because we cannot take, human beings, we become the instant gratification kind of thing and forget that we need to plan for down the road. But it comes back to family lifestyle behavior, how because it has to happen from within our young. For some of us, the horse gone through the gate already, okay? But we have to plan from within our families, our young children, how they eat in school. I know the Food and Nutrition Council is making a lot of effort, especially with our younger population in the preschool and the primary school areas, right? To get them to eat. I don't know, parents seem to have relinquish a little. And maybe we all spoiled by the age of convenience, that we take it easy. It's easy in a package, boil a pot of water, and you open the pot, you put the food and it's there, right? We're busier than usual. But we also have more conveniences than our grandmother had. She said to go and find wood and light a fire and cook. And do you understand? And she did that, and she worked hard. Even if we don't go back to as far as our grandparents, our parents, people 60 years ago, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, did all of that, came home and cooked a meal, or we just planned a little different. And yes, I'm not telling people not to have an easy, good life, but I'm saying you have to make sure that the easy, good life is also represented a healthy lifestyle for you and your families. So we don't have to walk to work anymore. So do we have a little extra time to go for a walk in the evening? Right? We don't have to go down the river and joke clothes on stone anymore. We can put it in the machine. Can we spend a little time doing a little dance, exercising, planning our meals, probably cooking enough meals? We don't have to cook every day anymore because we have refrigerator. How does that? Okay. And a lot of the stuff that we don't buy, we can buy them in tins. Are we going to buy the good things, or are we going to buy ravioli for our children? You got what I'm saying? So I think it's conscious decisions we have to make to say, this is not what I'm going to give my children. This is not what we're going to give our future generations. We're going to work together as families and collectively turn back those statistics, the projections, the things they say are going to happen in 30 years. Why don't we all get together and start working towards that? Utopia, maybe, but the point is, it's not impossible. Is it easy? No, it's not. But we can make changes. Why can't our children go to school at lunch, or eat the school lunch, which tends to be a little more balanced than we give them money and they buy sweetie. There's a school who have a sweetie shop outside, and I was aghast. They have a sweetie shop outside. Trust me, if I was 7, I was buying sweetie.
And the
why is that allowed?
Yes.
Why is that allowed? In our communities, why is the Ministry of Health allowing that? Because we have to protect our children, because we have, like we talked about, we've seen younger people, and Dr. Matthias mentioned last week, we've seen younger people having diabetes, and not adult onset, not juvenile diabetes. They're having adult onset diabetes because of the lifestyle that they live, because of what they eat, because of the sit-down life. They're not active and exercising. and already they might have the genetic loading, that there's a possibility that their parents have it, and so they also end up having diabetes because they're nurturing the underlying situation. So those are the challenges we're having.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's an individual responsibility that people say, I don't want this. I don't want it for myself. I don't want it for my family. And most of all, I don't want it for the younger people in my family, because that is taking them in a bad place. When you start having diabetes at 27, by 40, you need dialysis. And your eyes have gone too far.
And what's the cost to have one dialysis?
I can tell you what the cost where I used to work, 200,000 US a year.
Well, I know it's a little over $700 here.
It's
I remember the last
$700
time, yeah,
for one
yeah.
for one
And you need it what, three
one
times?
dialysis.
And you need it 3 times a week, or
Yeah.
twice? And how many times do you need it a week?
Well, some people ideally need to have dialysis 3 times a week. Because remember also, because we have not been following up a dialysis or diabetes, a lot of us, by the time we diagnose, already have some level of renal impairment, right? If we don't manage it tightly, that renal illness, that renal damage is going to progress and make you need dialysis. And that's a complicated and expensive machine. So $700 is actually subsidized.
Yeah, but if you, I mean, think about it. If someone has to get dialysis 3 times a week, at $700 each, we're talking here about $2,100. Think about it. How many people in Grenada work for that?
A week? Nobody. Well, nobody. None of my friends.
I mean, that's the point. It's so expensive, and what you find, a lot of people who, end up with those conditions, who are careless. Many of them don't earn that kind of money. So how are you going to?
No, but we're talking about even if they have the capacity to, from an academic and prepared state, right? They're sick. They're too sick to work anyway.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
So it is a very serious issue. And Doc, I want to because this probably might be our last program in this series on the whole thing of diabetes. So I want to spend a little time, admonishing people, about some of the ways they can actually help prevent that, in communities, starting in the communities. So, we talk about exercising, so you can, even if you consume some levels of sugar, you can burn that up, get it to go where it is supposed to go, and there are things we can do. What are some of the efforts we can make, within our communities?
And the charity has to begin at home, okay? So I think the first thing is that people need to seek knowledge so they could understand, right? Because we can say it in a very broad sense, but people need to seek knowledge to understand. So you have to understand where diabetes come from. Diabetes comes from your body not being able to take up all of the sugar that you consume, right? Your body has a mechanism to deal with that. So we need to seek understanding. And we have to share information with each other within our home. And we have to make efforts, not just the house. We have other communities, like whether you're in the Lions Club, or you're a Rotarian, or you're a Pentecostal, or a Seventh-day Adventist, or you play cricket or football. Do you understand? We have to create an awareness within the communities in which we live. That, look, there's a way we are required to eat. We're going to be able to selfish and say we as Grenadians must have a way that we are required to eat, right? We must eat that way, in order for us to stay well, right? We have to establish that. So it must mean that I want to start with the adults. Alcohol must not be a part of our daily routine, and large volumes of alcohol. You know you take to make rum, right? What you take to make rum? Not sugar?
Yep.
Sugar cane?
Mm-hmm.
So try and imagine That don't even need no big set of breakdown, because that breaks down because the glucose is there live and active. And a guy will tell you, I had a case of beer on Saturday. The body cannot take care of all of that, apart from the drunkenness. If the beer didn't have alcohol, just the sugar content in it, right, is way too much. And there are people who drink every day. So alcohol has to be something. I'm not telling people not to drink. I say stop drinking all the rum and alcohol, all alcohol and alcoholic beverages that we consume. We just consuming too much. Our bodies cannot manage it. What we do is stress out the pancreas that produces insulin to the point where it just can't make them more tired. So we have to have conditions in our community where people can exercise, where they can be active. I know, like, I was on the road today, on Sunday, I was driving, no, yesterday afternoon, I was driving through my community, and country road, okay, you know, secondary road, and a guy coming over the bus, the road barely has space for two of us, and from 100 yards away from me, he's telling me to move, and I'm in the grass, because he's not slowing down. How can I ask the people in my community to go and walk? Go walking on the road so that they can kill us off? No. Therefore, there must be other facilities that we have to produce. Can people in the community go into the schoolyard with the churches and other whatever community-based environment there are? Allow people to just come and walk. We encourage them, right? When people go out and play football and cricket in the afternoon and be physically active, because our children are required to exercise 30 minutes a day at least. Physical education is not something that is on our curriculum. And usually children exercise in school, but it's not on our curriculum. We drop our children to school in the morning and they walk 3 steps into the classroom and then they walk 3 steps back into the car, right? They don't exercise. They sit down in lunchtime, they eat a snack or whatever you give them out of their lunch pans, and they get out their little hands health thing and they go out. Kids must be encouraged. And we've spoken here already. I spoke to you about the 15-minute mile in Scotland. This has become part of their lifestyle. So this grade 3 teacher, grade 2, don't remember, found that your children are very tired, right? After they came from break, because they went and they eat all the sugar-sweetened beverages and then their poor brain struggling to cope with this high glucose, right? And she decided to send them out to run up and down. Just go, run. It's called a 15-minute mile, but you're really just playing for 15 minutes. So if you want to walk around for 15 minutes, most children will go and run up and down anyway. And what she discovered, not only did her children lose weight healthily, they were more active and performed better academically. Right? Remember, education also contributes to how we behave health-wise.
It does.
Right? So once the children are more apt to absorb information, you can talk to them about these things because they will understand a little better. How much of us do that? How many schools have the facility? How many people build their house, a little space in the backyard so their children can play? You buy 6,000 square foot of land and you build 5,900 square foot of house, and 100 square foot is just around the periphery. So you don't really park in the road. Well, you park in the road. So at least you have one step up into the house. We really do have to build differently, not only individually, but also from a community standpoint. So I was driving through Lassages and saw the new houses that look fabulous on the hillside. And I'm saying this with due respect to everybody who would benefit, but with deep pain in my heart. I see no way for our children to play. I see nowhere for our for communities, for people to have a little kitchen garden behind the house. I don't see anywhere for them to park their cars. So I don't know what's going to happen. Because when you have 3 levels of houses, right, in blocks, where the people are disabled, like you and I, if we lose our foot from diabetes, where is how I get upstairs on the 3rd floor? How I get to the doctor? That's an added cost because I have to pay some boy to take me into the house. How can I get to even go out and try and amble outside to exercise? So we have to be very careful when we're building our homes, right?
Yep.
That we don't use up all the space and that we leave some recreative space. And that when communities like Blasages and wherever, even Mongay, um, when they build, when they erect it, that we follow international building codes and ensure that people who live in large communities like that have a common space for exercise and recreation. So if it means that you have cricket, remember when you grew up in Tivoli, all you never had a ball pitch. If we go and play cricket on the weekend,
Yeah.
well, we had two where I grew up, right? You have to ensure that our communities are built friendly enough that masses of people, large group of people, can find space, safe space, not only safe from criminal activities, so that it must be like, but safe, physically safe, that they don't fall and break their foot, they don't have crab hole and all those stuff when they run up and down and playing. Swings for the children, the thing that they push around and spin around, and monkey bars and stuff where the kids can go and climb. Place that's flat and safe, they can skip, right? Run up and down, play ring a roses, play talk about whatever it is. And these activities don't have to be expensive, because a lot of people think you have to buy that leotard and tight and Reeboks and Nike and stuff outfit, right, to go there. No, you can put on a t-shirt and a shorts or a yoga pants, whatever it is, the slacks. The ties that we walk up and down and put on a t-shirt. Everybody buys a t-shirt or even an ordinary shirt and safe shoes in your feet, right? And go there and be active. But our community, our church communities, the other structured faith-based organizations have to encourage our communities. And I was telling some ladies on Sunday, I went to this church and I was talking these days and I said, when you have prayer group, do you get up and walk? You can walk on the road and pray together, or you can walk around in the yard if you have a yard. Go to your once you have a yard and you pray, walking. The time passes so fast you wonder, do we do that? Or do we just sit down and read the Bible and all of us head knocked down? And yes, sometimes you get a little, motivated by the Spirit. But there are other ways to do this. Are we taking our friends, instead of going and sit down and drink? Why not go and play like a scrimmage on the beach? Or walk up and down, say, let's go to the beach once, twice a week for a half-hour walk. Beach free and belongs to everybody. In good area with tourists, now they have to share the space. And that is going to be so for a very, very long time. Okay? So the community has to create its own way for the community to become very active. The community must we have to encourage each other to have a little garden. I give you lettuce plant, you give me cucumber plant. I give you tomato plant, you give me string beans plant or seed, whatever it is. I grow lettuce and I give you, or you give me 2 pak choy or a piece of pumpkin, and we share. We have to go back to that kind of stuff where we encourage each other. Instead of sitting down and talking about fingernail and hair and all the foolishness, talk about healthy stuff. How can we lose this weight? How can we
But you see, Doc, I think this is so important, huh? So important. Because it goes deeper than just that. You mentioned earlier the issue of education and people not knowing what is involved. Now, if people don't understand that, how do they hold those discussions? How do they discuss it? How do they make plans? How do they get organized to do things to help them to remain healthy? You have people who just what? You see them, they just sit by the roadside from morning to evening. When they feel hungry, they stop by the shop, they buy 2 cake and a sweet drink and a soda. They drink and they sit down there all the while. If by chance you listen to the discussion, you'd be amazed at the kind of things you hear from people. So I think the education system, look, this whole thing requires a holistic approach. And I think our leaders or the leadership of the country needs to understand that, put things in place that can trickle down into our communities, and so the process can begin. Or else we're going to find ourselves just doing the same thing over and over. And we talk about it and we admonish and we put the information out there, but there probably are people who don't even understand it because that basic level of education they do not possess. And so, what do we do?
So one of my friends just sent me a message. She returned to Grenada in the last 6 weeks. She's been back. Went to the supermarket and lettuce was $27 a head. She said no. And she don't even live in a nice fertile place like Tivoli and Namur, okay? But she went and planted lettuce. We have to be motivated by the need to be well. But I agree with you that the government has a responsibility to continuously educate our population, encourage behavior change, and make it be something that is sexy, something that we want to do. We all want to be able to be healthy, to be well, right? Workplaces have to take it on. We see, you go to a workplace and see all the young women in there are overweight. Why? Because like you said, they have a Coke, or sorry, I don't mean to say Coke, I'm very sorry, Coca-Cola, a soft drink, and I think I'm gone. They have a soft drink and cake for their meals.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Rather unfortunate.
Are you the Godfrey? I'm not
so
seeing
Doc,
you.
You're not. I'm not sure. But we need to take a short break. We're going to take a short break, and
Yes, let's do that.
when we come back, we have some calls. We'll take some calls
Yes.
before we have for this evening. So stay with us, folks. We'll be back in just a moment.
Whether you're shopping for hardware, building materials, and appliances, Hubbard's Building Supplies at Grandans is the place to shop. With improved facilities, increased parking, wider variety of products, and a trendy and spacious layout, catering for all your shopping needs. Why wait? Visit Hubbard's Building Supplies today. Now open Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Hubbard's. Quality service, affordable prices.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Spicile Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Spicile Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. Here's another little known fact. Spicile Imaging has 3 centers. We operate at Grenville, the Carnage, and at the Ocean House, Grandlands. We provide the widest range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, x-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today at 444-7679 or 406-1500 or visit any of our 3 locations. Spicile Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Dr. and Call, and our telephone line is now open. So if you have any questions you would like to ask, you can do so. The number 435-2041. Let's go to our telephone. Dr. and Call, good evening.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Good evening. I'm very, very glad. I cannot emphasize when you tell us about education. And I commended the new leader, Mitchell. What he said that education should be transferred and it should be realistic. I usually talk about that. And people hate me, and they have hated me, calling that I believe I educated. Maybe they might not say the same thing about you because you're a doctor. But I'm glad you're telling them. A lot of us believe education is having book sense, and they cannot transform it to reality. And I always talk about that. And now maybe people may hear. What I want to say, we must put an emphasis on people being able to do real things. In other words, people will tell you amount are wise. And I always try to educate them. Amount is strictly used for money. And you're hearing people who was involved in social work, in carnival. I hear people telling people wrong things. Even the word what is emancipation, so they teach you what you mean by emancipation. They tell you emancipation means freedom. The Emancipation Act don't mean freedom.
Okay, caller. Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. All right. We continue 435-2041. That's the number you can call if you have any questions. We're discussing diabetes. It's part of Diabetes Awareness Month. So you can give us a call. You have any questions or you have an experience you'd like to share, you can definitely do so. And the doctor will be quite happy to share with you information, to help you to control or to, prevent. And that's what we've been trying to provide information so people can prevent themselves from getting there, or if you're already there, to control it. Let's go back to the telephone. Dr. and Call, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Citizen Augustine, and greetings to Dr. Nixon. Dr. Nixon, I hear you talk there and so on, and believe you me, man, the hair on my skin raised. I feel your passion and I feel your understanding of how people suffer in this here country. I don't know you would like to see it stop, but we have some major problems. The leadership of this country has permitted our people to do what they want with this disguised form of freedom and liberty to do what they want, to make their own choices, despite the fact that the state had to come back to maintain everybody at the end. Is unfortunate. Doctor, the only way this can be changed is that we have to put the people sit down in the community centers, in the schools, etc., to feed them this sort of information, not from Dr. Nixon alone, but from all, and particularly from the leadership of the country. We are what we eat. That message has to go home. Thanks for your efforts, doctor. But I want you to also, I think you're in a position to lead a campaign. So if it means through petitions, we get the government to get the legislature of this country, because they have deceived us over the years. All of them want to get in partisan politics to run their own business instead of educating. And my use of the word educate is very serious, not mamagism. I talk by here with inculcating information and knowledge into the people so that they can understand, first of all, who they are, what they're made of, and how they themselves can guarantee long life with unhindered medical problems. I understand you, doctor. Let us get together and get through petition, discussion in the schools. I'm not referring particularly to junior educational class. I refer to in the schools, community centers, public places, discussions on these matters and move towards, after a certain level, to a constituent assembly, so that the people of this country can be part of the planning and the decision making for the future. We are eating ourselves alive. That is the problem. And I understand how you feel. Thanks for your efforts, doctor. But let us see if we can get together. I need to have a chat with you personally, so that the people of the country can be involved in the future. Thank you very
You
much.
know my number.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much
So
indeed.
I'm glad. I like the passion that comes out because again, we talk about education and it has to occur in the communities, but our leadership has to understand what the challenges of diseases are on our people. It's good enough and it's correct and it's responsible and it's morally correct, placed in the right way to provide for treatment because already we're in a state of severe crisis. But we have to approach this from two ways: treating and preventing. And I want to tell a caller, we talk about the freedom. Remember that freedom comes with responsibility. The freedom is the right to do that which is correct. So everyone has to see what is their responsibilities to themselves, their families, and their communities in this exercise of freedom. I can drive fast enough, but I might hit down a school child at the end of the road. Yeah, but I pay my license and I have a nice car. I have a 7 Series BMW and I want to drive fast, but your child also has a right to cross the street. And a disabled person has a right to walk on the road where there's no street, where there's no light, where there's no sidewalks. So we have to figure out what is my responsibility on that road that's not good. How am I going to make sure that I do the correct thing so that I don't have challenges at the end of my day? Everybody's responsibilities, but who leads the country does have a responsibility to guide people along the right path. I do agree with you on that point.
Let's go back to the telephone. And Dr.
I'm not hearing very well.
Yeah, we lost that one there. 435-2041. That's the number you can call, and you can ask your question or you can make your contribution to the program. It's Doc. It is something that you've always spoken about. The use of the gadgets that we have, and we use it for everything else except for helping to develop ourselves. So let's go back to the telephone. Dr. and Call, good evening.
I'm not hearing.
Okay, so let me just say that again, folks. When you call, please turn the volume of your radio or your television, whatever you're listening on, turn the volume down and listen to us on your telephone. All right? If you don't, you will be confused. We'll be getting a feedback and it just won't be making a lot of sense. So when you call, turn the volume of your device down and listen on your telephone. Let's go back to the call. Dr. and Call, good evening. Hello?
I think the internet is a little messy tonight as well. So
yeah, it's highly possible. It's highly possible. 435-2041. That's the number you can call. Let's try again and see who is with us. Doctor and Call, good evening.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Yes, what I want to ask the doctor about, there's a lot of people in Grenada with diabetes, and they have problem with their legs. Is there any chiropodist that you could go to? The government have any chiropodist that you can go to get your leg checked, your nails cut, and everything like that?
So I think there's another one from the one I know. There's someone who functions privately, but I know recently there was training of people for foot care. I can't give details because I was not involved. I just know of it. So I would advise you to ask at the big health centers. Big health centers would be like Grand Bras, Sauterres, St. George's. I think Grand Anse is a big one. St. George's, St. David's, Caracou, and go off. So the nurses in charge might be able to tell you how to access that service. There is. And we were talking about that last week, Godfrey, don't go away yet, caller. We were talking about that last week, that there's certain things, basic things that you're required to do to ensure once you're diagnosed. All my patients have to go to the dentist. Everybody has to get their eye checked. Once you get your sugar under control, you go get your eyes checked. Everybody has to get their feet checked. Everybody has to go to a nutritionist. Those are some of the things that you have to do. in order to see what your baseline is and how much damage is already. Currently, in relation to foot care, it's not a question of caring for wounds. In relation to foot care, what we want to do is to ensure that we prevent the loss of limbs. There are other reasons why you lose your foot. If you have poor circulation, naturally, you don't necessarily have to have things. If you have had injury, whatever it is, there are other things. People with sickle cell will have ulcers that don't heal easily, and there are other diseases, okay? But diabetes is one of the biggest causes. If 13 in every 100 of us have diabetes, it means that 13 in every 100 people likely to lose their foot if we don't take care of it. So you have to be aware of what your complications are. And that's an individual responsibility as well. So I'm glad that you call, right? And when you go, you ask them to teach you, because behind you, there's somebody else waiting to come and see this person who is such a scarce human resource, right? So you go and you ask the person to teach you how to take off your nails. You probably can't go every time because you just don't have enough people, but you need to ask. You need to go and see and get them to tell you. I think I lost my speaker.
No, I'm hearing you well, Doc.
Just my speaker isn't working. This is crazy. I'm sorry.
But I'm hearing you. Are you able to hear me?
You need to get to tell you what is your state of your foot.
Yeah. So, folks, we do apologize. We've been having some internet issues all evening, but we're trying to get through. Doc, I'm hearing you. If I'm not sure, she's probably not hearing me. Your microphone is muted. Are you hearing me now? Your microphone is muted.
And mic says I'm muted. I have no.
Yes, it's muted. It's muted. You need to unmute your microphone. Doc, you have to try and unmute your microphone. That's why your microphone is muted.
Myself?
I'm hearing you now. Right. Let's go. Mm-hmm.
I think I'm back. I was muted for a while. I'm very sorry. So getting your foot checked is very important. I'm glad this lady brought it up because it is required for all of us to be able to get our feet checked and to be able to take care of our foot, because foot care is probably one of the most important things. We're not even going to go through the costs again.
Right. Well, Doc, the thing is, what I would like us to do, because we're almost out of time, we've spent practically 4 weeks talking about diabetes, what it is, the importance of preventing diabetes, the importance of controlling diabetes and all of that. We can just, at this point...
Godfrey, I'm not hearing anything from you.
I'm not sure. We seem to be having issues here with our internet, and we do apologize for that, folks. But I'm thinking here, Doc, just in case it comes back on, we can just probably summarize what we've discussed over the past...
I think we're having some problems.
Yes, we are. Let me just take a quick break, see if we can get that sorted out, and then we'll come back and wrap in a minute. So stay with us, folks. We take a quick break and we come right back.
Christmas classics are on Yuletide Sundays from November 13th to December 18th, 2022, 5 to 7 p.m. on Classic Radio and GBN Television with Godfrey, Augustine and Janelle McDonald. Made possible by Clear Vision Eye Center and Gittins Healthcare.
Let's mingle and jingle.
You mean jingle and mingle, right?
Does it really matter? Mingle and Jingle, the mid-morning program that will drive the Christmas season. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio, GBN Television, and all GBN social media platforms.
It's where the deals of the season are, where the Christmas music is played, holiday traditions are relived, and where all the fun is.
Mingle and Jingle.
Or Jingle and Mingle. Mid-mornings from November 14th to December 23rd only on the GBN network.
Made possible by
Flow,
West the Hall Rums,
Hard On Plus,
Judy Free Caribbean Holdings,
Ace Hardware,
Gittins Healthcare, and
Grenville Credit Union.
Okay, welcome back, folks. Well, I hope we have it rectified. Doc, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but I see nothing. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm hearing you well. I was saying we've discussed, diabetes for the past 4 weeks, and I think it's a good time to just sort of summarize some of the very important points that we made throughout the past 4 weeks. Because this would probably be the last one for the time being on diabetes before we are for this evening.
So the first thing I want to say that because we've spoken to diabetes this week, please don't put it in a drawer. Preventing diabetes has to be a lifestyle. Tonight we see how much it costs us. What we know is that probably most of us at risk, but at 13%, 13 in every 100 of us here in Grenada or more by now, by 2030 will have diabetes. But that diabetes is preventable. And the biggest thing to preventing diabetes is knowing about it, getting educated. Education means just getting knowledge and applying the knowledge in your everyday life. Like the speaker said, you don't have to be able to read and write, just ask questions and know. We lived well half a century ago. We were poorer, but we ate well. We didn't eat all the fancy food and pretty colored boxes, and we didn't eat box food, right? We grew what we ate. We ate small amounts. We worked harder. We were more active. We walked, right? We managed our stress better. We talked to our friends. We did stuff, because that's one of the things. We consumed less alcohol as a population. We didn't smoke, right? And above all, we made sure that our children ran up and down and played and exercised, because that is one of the biggest risk factors. I'm probably talking to people in Germany tonight, just sitting in my living room, and I'm talking to people in Germany and everywhere, and people can call and ask questions, because we have so much of man's knowledge developed so widely that we can use it to take care of ourselves. And we should not use it just for entertainment. We should also use it for knowledge and empowerment of ourselves, because diabetes is real. Diabetes comes when our bodies can no longer manage the carbohydrates, that is the sugars and the starch that we take in, that we so need for energy. But we can't, we consume too much, and we damage our organs, or pancreas specifically, that provides insulin, which is required to transport this glucose, this energy from the outside, from the bloodstream into the cells where they're needed. Think about it. You've had a meal and the door to the dining room is locked and people in there waiting for it, and you need the key, that insulin, to get in there. It doesn't happen. All of the food just stays outside. That food outside causes flies, it causes rodents, it causes a whole other stuff. So let's see the damage that is done to our blood vessels, especially those small vessels, and us having blindness and having strokes because we don't get proper circulation to our brain, having heart attacks because we don't get proper circulation to our hearts, having kidney failures because our kidney comes under so much pressure from all of that glucose, losing our limbs, right? Losing the sensation in our hands, just a whole lot, losing our quality of life, having children with our family, losing our sexual function. We want to talk about the men, we didn't get around to doing that. Let's look, because the truth is, guess what? We're in control, we have control, we just don't use it, right? We have knowledge, we just don't seek it out. right? And everybody has an individual responsibility, but we also have a responsibility to our families and to our communities to stay as well as we can, to be as productive as we can, to cost as little as we can for society and the healthcare system to take us, so that our insurance costs can go down, so that the money that the government has to invest that's not even an investment. The money that they have to spend, right? Right? They have to ingress in taking care of chronic disease that we can prevent, can do better schools, can ensure that our children have all the vaccines, that they can ensure that we can provide better housing, better transportation, safer roads, more light, right? More education, just a better quality of life for everybody, better salaries, okay, for people who work in the services, and that we can enjoy a life that is long and undisturbed by illness, right? Especially diabetes, because diabetes is just too expensive. It's just too expensive to take care of, especially when we can prevent it. So here, this is not where it ends. This is where it begins for all of us, okay? This is where us as a population should take up. Let's fight this thing. And I want the people who already have diabetes, I'm not cursing you, I'm just trying to stop those who I don't want to experience the challenges that you're having. Those of you who already have diabetes, and even if you have complicated diabetes, yes, it is still possible to control your blood sugar and watch the reversal. Watch the reverse, watch the improved quality of life. Okay? Watch your improved quality of life. Older persons, you want to be able to watch your grandchildren grow up, go to university, graduate, get married, see your great-grandchildren. We're promised 70 years. Let's grab that. And if we take care, people who live over 70 and 80 actually have, especially people in poor communities, because you have so much adjustment, actually have the potential for living longer than people who live in wealthy communities, because we've weathered all these storms. We are a little more resilient. So let's really make it that we're going to take our expectation of life, our life expectancy. How much more years do I have? Further up, make sure that we come from the 70s and go into the high 80s. We can't do that. The Japanese have done it. The Americans don't have it, trust me. But the Japanese have done it, because you see the old people and the Chinese in the park exercising, doing their, don't remember what it's called, cheat, and I love it the exercises, eating small amounts, being nurtured by their families, going out there and getting what is required to have a good quality of life. Everybody in Grenada, almost everybody in Grenada, like piece of land, trust me, grow lettuce and tomato and plant the flowers around the corner. Flowers pretty, but lettuce good. Right? And so I hope that everybody takes this chance to look at introspective life. Am I eating correctly? Young, old, or indifferent? We have a responsibility to ourselves, because when we get ill, it becomes such a burden to the rest of the community. Not for something that we can stop. Not for something that we have control over. We can do this. We can do this, right? Together we can. And of course, I expect the government to take on its responsibility to lead from in front in making sure that we as Grenadians turn back, right? Shoot down, get rid, obliterate, I don't care what it is, bomb, crush, whatever word you want to use, diabetes as a scourge in our community. And so I wish everybody the best. And I want to make one more point. So Christmas coming, right? Christmas is not a time to cheat. And I'm not telling you don't eat a piece of cake. I'm telling you don't eat a whole fruit cake. And I'm telling you, if you have a sliver of cake, make sure you're checking your blood sugars, because you have to also monitor yourself. That's being responsible. That's being bold, right? Monitor your sugar. We talked last week about doing 2-hour sugar. 2-hour sugar is done. You have a meal, and 2 hours after you finish your meal, you check your sugar. That will give an example of how good your control is, because if you are having, if your sugar is under control within 2 hours, your blood sugar should go back within that normal range. If it's not happening, you need to figure out and say, okay, let me figure out what's going on here. Let me get responsible. Let me learn to control myself. What did I eat? If it's high, you have to cut down on your portions and cut down on what you eat. Again, we talked about portions, as I said. You can't eat a whole breadfruit and the whole yam because we say eat breadfruit and yam. I'm saying a little slice of breadfruit, a little slice, a tiny, and a piece of yam with a lot of vegetables and whatever protein you're going to have. Whether you're going to boil 2 eggs, scramble 2 eggs, fried Trigana Jacks, I don't care, or boil a fish, whatever it is, and some greens. It is important that you have your vegetables, a critical part of your plate, that you start to eat first, because that is what the effort in eating really makes you feel a great sense of satisfaction, right? And please, it is important that you learn to monitor our sugars, because that is the powerhouse, okay? And of course, get the other things checked. Christmas come, have a little piece of cake. If you want to have some cake, you can't go wrong drinking. And above all, please do not stop your medications. I beg you people do. Because we see increase in heart attacks and strokes motivated by uncontrolled diabetes in the beginning of the year. We don't have the resources. We already have a lot of people who are very ill. We don't want to lose you. We want to have people who stay at a hospital, right? And when your friends come from foreign to come for holidays, please tell them, please, they don't come here to get sick. Take the medication, do the exercise. Your custom exercise in the morning, after you do all you have to do, go take your exercise, please. And remember, it's not expensive to exercise. You can walk right in your veranda.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Well, Doc, I thank you so very much. Also, I want to say special thanks to Dr. Matthias, Mrs.
And the Diabetes
Mrs.
Association.
Brown, the Diabetes Association, all who came together and make this series of programs possible. I thank you also very much. Those of you who tuned in, those of you who've made the effort and start the process of trying to prevent yourselves, I congratulate you. And of course, I want to encourage those of us who've not started yet to please do. It is very, very important. I just want to quickly remind you, if you find that you're feeling more thirsty than usual, if you find that you're urinating often than usual, if you find that you're losing weight without exercising or doing, things differently, if you're feeling tired and weak, if you feel irritable and you're having mood changes, if you're having blurry vision, if you find that your sores are taking a very long time to heal, if you find that you have lots of infections such as gum, skin, and in ladies, vaginal infections, check the doctor or check your blood sugar. These are some of the signs, some of the symptoms that may present themselves. So please, folks, pay attention to that. Those of you who have your phones, you have internet, go online. There are some excellent sites like Mayo Clinic and Healthline, WebMD. You can also go on the WHO site or the CDC website. These are credible sites where you can get a lot of information on things like that. Read it up, be informed, and help protect yourself. All right? I won't talk about Christmas because Dr. Nixon told you about it already. But of course, don't think because we had a series of programs on diabetes, that's the end of it. Well, if you think so, you have another thing coming because we're going to be coming back at you with diabetes again because it is important. And folks, not because we talk about controlling your sweet, you're going to decide, all right, I'm not eating sweet, but I'm going to eat salt. No. Worse. Everything must be controlled because I tell you, you have one problem. If it's not controlled, it can lead to something else, and before you know it, you're going to be something else. So, folks, I want to thank you very much again. Next Tuesday we will be back on Doctor and Call. You can join me tomorrow evening as well. And we have our programs going on. Stay with us. Thank you all for the calls, the contribution. We look forward to being back with you next Tuesday. Do have a good night, and thank you very much. All the best.
Night, everybody.
Yes.